If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you live from our studios here in the nation's capital. Now, to kickstart our first discussion on the program, the Central Bank of Nigeria has revealed that it will stop the sale of foreign exchange to banks by the end of the year 2022. According to CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, the decision is aligned with the CBN's new commitment to boost the country's foreign reserves through proceeds from non-oil exports. Now we have a financial analyst, Mukhtar Mohammed, joining us via Skype from Lagos for more discussion on this. Hello, Mukhtar.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's nice to have you join us on Daybreak this morning.
My pleasure always.
Okay, so now could you talk to us on this new CBN decision for banks to source for their Forex themselves?
Well, it's a good decision in the long term, but in the short term, it's going to cause a lot of disruption to the system. And there's a saying that says it's the short term that determines the long term. And what you do in the short term determine whether you achieve the long term goal. So when we look at that, then we'll begin to ask ourselves, it could be a very difficult thing to do because the CBN is talking about allowing banks to source for their own forex, and we know that 90% of our forex comes through sales in crude oil, and crude oil revenue goes directly into the account with the CBN. So it does not go into any account of any bank. So that means 90% of the forex will be going to the CBN. So in the short term, doesn't look nice because it's going to cause obstruction in the system. It's going to cause a lot of inflationary problem. It's going to cause what we're already suffering from already high exchange rate in the parallel market to go up again, because you just need to not to look too far to see just stoppage of sale of dollar to the bureau de change have stuck the naira in the parallel market to about 570, 580. So in the short term, I think what they should have been doing, look at stability. After you've created stability in the forex market, then that's when you should be talking about banks sourcing for their own FX.
All right. Well, but mainly the central bank talks about, boosting our foreign exchange earnings, by so doing. So, don't you think that it's the right step in the right direction? Perhaps it will reduce the pressure on the dollar, isn't it?
No, definitely. Like I said, in the short term, we will not reduce the pressure on the dollar because we already have a pressure already. We already have that pressure. So we are not addressing that pressure. We are looking at the long-term solution to a short-term problem, which is sometimes okay, but you need to press up that, you need to get that pressure off that exchange rate. Once you get the pressure off the exchange rate, then you begin to of this solution that you are bringing in. No, we are not saying that they are going to be earning FX through the oil. They say non-oil you're talking about non-oil. You're talking about growing other sector. You're talking about the manufacturing sector. These are sectors that have their own challenges that have to do with infrastructure that have not been addressed. So in the short term, it doesn't look nice because already we have that pressure on. So what I would expect the CBN to do was for you to make such a statement, then you should have stabilized the current challenges that we have in the FX market. That again is not going to make you to attract foreign investors, because foreign investors come to Nigerian market because they know that the CBN has the capacity to meet their exit demand when they want to exit the market. But now that you are saying that bank will be the one to meet their demand, is going to reduce a lot of foreign direct investment into Nigeria, or even portfolio investment also.
All right. Well, again, others have said that perhaps this will also help to boost, our exports in Nigeria, exporting, in Nigeria by the banks now, finding a way to help and promote ideas that will, help in terms of exporters, doing business overseas and all of that. Don't you think that that's something that will have an implication in the long run, on our economy?
Yes, I said in the long run we could have that, but you don't address a long term. You address a long term problem with a short term solution. What are you doing in the short term? The short term problem we have in the FX market is all about demand and supply. we've not been able to meet that. So we have those challenges. So if we are able to address the problem of demand and supply, then you begin to come up with this strategy to maintain a long-term solution to a problem that has become a recurrent decimal in the Nigerian economy. Look, stabilizing the naira has not been an issue for the CBN, but going forward, it has not been able to sustain this stability. So what they are trying to do is to sustain the stability in the long run, which is good. I have been an advocate that banks should begin to source for their own FX, their own self, to satisfy their own customers. I should be able to walk into a bank, and the bank should act as another medium of bureau de change, whereby they can bank goes to go international to source for funds. So they should be able to source for those funds. They go to get euro bond, they can begin to source for dollar also in their own coffers, so their own customers can begin to get this dollar from them, which is okay. But we have a problem at hand now, which is how do you address this short-term problem that we have? Then when you address the short-term problem, bring stability into the system, then you are going to create a long-term stability when you introduce it. What we are going to see panic comes into the system. We are going to see the exchange rate in the parallel market begin to skyrocket. Even if you are going to see the bank are made to understand that the bank used to give FX, PTA and school fees to Nigerians daily. They have now reduced it to weekly. So we are going to begin to see those shortages play, because the bank is saying by December we might not have to get from the CBN again. So whatever we have, whatever we've gotten from the CBN now, we need to manage it. So it's going to cause a lot of destruction in the system, which is not a good destruction at the moment. The Nigerian economy does not need those kind of statements now. Even you should be able to tell us, look, this is what we are looking toward, but before then we want to stabilize the FX market.
Okay, so Mukhtar, could you talk to us about the RT200, which is the raise to $200 billion Forex repatriation? Do you think it's working?
Well, you see, in the CBN normally don't give us, they are not open when it comes to the Forex issue. I keep saying it, they have not been open. So we can't really say whether it's working or not working, because we need to get those data from them to know. But if you want to look at it, is it working? Then all you need to look at is to look at both the official and the parallel market. And if you look at the official market, the CBN market, which we call the official market, we've seen the dollar going from 410 to 419. So you see it's not working. If you look at the parallel market, you've seen the dollar move from 470 to 580. Then you say it's not working, but the CBN will tell you that, oh, it's going to work in the long term, because those days that they used to give FX to the bureau de change, we used to know weekly how much the CBN put into the FX market. But these days we don't have those data, so you can't be saying it's working. And again, when you look at our foreign reserve, also has depleted over some time. We're at over around $39 million per barrel. $39 billion in our foreign reserve from a high of almost 40 billion. And even with the high crude oil price, we are not seeing it reflecting in our results. So when you look at all these three issues I've said, then you will see it's not working.
All right. Now, well, let's talk about some possibilities here. Is it something that, we could expect maybe some kind of, decrease in the cost of the dollar, by virtue of this, in the near future, maybe? It's something that Nigerians are really looking forward to.
We could see the increase in the inflow of the dollar if we're able to manage our economy. But like I said, it's not something that will happen overnight. It's not something that will happen in the next 9 months or 10 months, like the CBN is making us to believe. It's something that will happen over time, because it's not rocket science, like you say. But again, it has a lot to do with policies. It has a lot to do with infrastructures. It has a lot to do with availability of Forex. So if you look at these three issues I've raised up now, we don't have the means, or we are not handling those issues because we don't have the capability to handle those issues. So it's not looking good when you look at that. But in the long term, are we able to fix this problem? Are we able to begin to let the banks source for FX themselves? Then it could work in the long term. I'm an advocate that it will work in the long term. This policy is a good policy, but we need to create stability first in the short term, then in the long term to maintain that stability that we have created, both in the import-export market, both in the CBN exchange, what we call the official exchange rate, and the parallel market. We are able to bridge the gap in terms of supply. Then we can begin to say, this is the policy that's in place now. Bank begin to source for your own, for your clients, for your customers. Then we will see a long-term stability. The policy is meant to stabilize the Forex market. But in the short term, we need to build stability before we begin to introduce any other policy. Because what you see now, you see panic in the system. Like I've just told you, the banks are panicking now. They are no more releasing daily PTA to their customers. They are now making it weekly. So it's a challenge.
On the inflation rate in the country?
It's definitely going to affect the inflation rate in the country. I mean, there's no doubt about that, because over 80% of what we use for our day-to-day consumption is being imported outside of the shore of the country. And the manufacturers have been complaining for a while now that they've not been able to meet up a lot of their demand. So I think it's going to, in the short term, it's going to really affect us. Definitely. I mean, inflationary pressure would definitely come up if we, even by men, even not even implementing this policy, we're already seeing inflation having a problem. So by the time we implement this policy, we could see a hike in inflation, more hike in inflation.
Mukhtar, I believe you can hear me. Now, what are the likely implications of this decision on the drive to create more jobs for Nigerians? Already we are dealing with a very high level of unemployment in the country.
Well, I think the CBN is trying to address the job creation area by the 100 million for 100 entrepreneurs. So they are beginning to look at that to help the SMEs. So we need to see what will come out from that, because they are trying to bring an homegrown solution to the employment problem. And they also were saying that they were going to address the FX challenges of these SMEs, the 100 SMEs that they will pick to make sure that these are SMEs that contribute to the GDP and also create jobs. So when you look at that, we need to wait and see what will come out from those policies, helping those small SMEs, especially the manufacturing sector. That could be the game changer in terms of job creation. But when you look at the manufacturing sector, especially, or the informal sector, which needs to be the largest employer of labor in Nigeria, then you say that there's a lot of challenges that are there. And most of the challenges they are facing also have to do with the foreign exchange market, because they were the one mostly that patronized the bureau de change. And after you close down the bureau de change, they've not created a window for them to access FX. So that's what is causing the pressure also in the exchange rate in the parallel market, because they need to bring product into Nigeria and they don't care how they're going to bring it. So by the time they bring it at an exchange rate of 570, 580, or 590, then they have to sell it at a high cost. And so that will also have impact in inflation that we are seeing. So in addressing that problem, the CBN need to come up with a comprehensive, holistic solution. And unfortunately, it's not even in the CBN status to be doing all this direct investment into SMEs, and that's what we've been complaining. It's supposed to be what the fiscal policy are supposed to come up with, policy that would drive growth and create employment. But CBN is stepping in here because they say that their monetary policy is not yielding the result, because there's no synergy between their own monetary policy and that of the fiscal policy, which have to do with the other arm, with government. So they have to begin to do what they are doing. These are things that is supposed to come from the fiscal side, creating policy to complement the monetary policy. Then you see this job comes in. So it's what we call in economics demand and supply. Once you have the supply, the demand is there, then you are able to meet the demand and the supply, then you see this thing comes down. So unfortunately, what we're seeing here is that CBN is beginning to get themselves involved in area that is not their core competency, direct intervention. You see them doing it in the rice, you see them doing it they're trying to do it in Texas. These are not their area of us. CBN is more to create stability in the monetary aspect of the economy. The microeconomic stability is supposed to be driven by the fiscal policies.
All right. Now, I mean, first it was the BDCs, that central bank decided that we're not going to be giving you, Forex anymore. And now it's the banks. What are other areas that you think need more attention as well, or we should consider in terms of how to boost our foreign exchange earnings?
I think one of the areas we need to consider is we throughout most of our PPP, probably private partnership, especially in the area of our infrastructure. We should be doing those concessions, and then we bring down that means direct foreign investment will be coming into the country. But what we see we are doing with China is PPP in the area of constituency plan, whereby China just bring in their equipment from them without even getting those equipment, because we are not producing those equipment. So rather, it's also adding to the pressure that we are seeing in the economy. Then the other way that we could address this issue is local refining of our petroleum products. If you look at those when CBN used to publish those that have access to Forex, you realize that over 90% of them actually are from the oil sector, importation of refined petroleum products. So if we are able to address that, then we'll see we'll have addressed a very key area in the economy.
All right.
Talking about Forex, I saw this over the weekend. The CBN governor said that Nigerians abroad have accelerated remittances into the country from 2.1 billion to 41.5 billion every week, because of its Naira dollar scheme. Could you talk to us about that?
Well, I said, if those policies are working like the CBN make us to believe, then we should see the exchange rate in the parallel market, or we could see the exchange rate in the official market, or we see the exchange rate in the import-export window comes down. We have not seen that. Rather, we've seen a spike in the exchange rate in all of these spaces. So if you want to see results, based on the policies that they are bringing. You need not to forget that also these Nigerians in the diaspora that make this remittance are also going to challenge in the pandemic also, because most of them don't have job as they used to have jobs. So those remittance is not coming in like when it used to come in before. But if CBN is saying that we have doubled the remittance within a year, then we need to see those results we need to see those impact of those results in the FX market. But we're not seeing those impact of those results. So it's hard to believe that your policy is making impact in terms of remittance, and it's not addressing the key issue why you introduced that policy to reduce volatility in the exchange rate market. So for me, it's neither here nor there. It doesn't make sense if you say that, and then we are saying the rate comes up even in the FX, in the parallel market, the rates the rates are high also in the import-export window, and the rates are even high in the CBN control windows that they give to banks for PTA. So I don't know how they are seeing the impact on the impact of their policy on the exchange rate.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mukhtar. But just before we let you go, on a lighter note, I would like to get your own reaction to, the story about the CBN governor being considered for a very good presidential aspirant in the coming 2023 elections. That's a story that we are seeing on our front page this morning, briefly.
If it is by performance, what we want to judge the CBN governor. They have done a lot in direct intervention. They have done a lot, but what affects the ordinary man, what affects me, what affects everybody, we've not seen the impact of the CBN in that area, because that means we've seen the CBN governor come in from an exchange rate regime of 200, and then he came in when the naira was exchanging for 197 to the dollar, and today that was even in the parallel market. Today we are doing 570, and that have increased the sufferings of Nigeria, that have increased the inflation figure, that have bring the cost of living high. Then if that is the reason, if you are looking by achievement, then we could say I think he has not done well for himself, because that's the major point that everybody will be pointing at if he has to go out to campaign. But maybe he has vision for Nigeria. He has tried his best, especially the Anko borrowing that we have the rice pyramid in Abuja. Maybe that's just what he's looking at.
I mean, well, well, so to say that by what you've just said, that it means that we have bigger fishes to fry, as far as economy is concerned, isn't it? He has much more serious issues to concentrate on, rather than considering, politics, isn't it?
He has 4 years. He still has another 4 years. He needs to redeem himself. So he shouldn't be thinking of going to the presidency. He's still a very young man at his age. So maybe if he's able to perform the next 4 years, we will begin to clamor for him to take over position. But for
That's
now,
a bit
I think the most serious
that's a bit
issues is to
controversial
deal
if
with
you
the
say
economy.
young. Is he young? Really? Is he? well, well, I don't think. Well, if you say young, well, depending on what you mean, by being young. But thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning, and sharing your perspectives with us on this subject. We appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Good morning, Abuja.
All right.